What's going on, everybody? Bowen Cunningham here alongside Milan Stanchu for August 5th, 2021. Another episode of Slightly Biased Sports Talks. And Milan, we got a lot of basketball. We got a lot of football, a lot in both sports to talk about, plus whatever else we want to cover. So let's get into it with some basketball news. Basically, the last couple of days has been NBA free agency period. A lot of notable transactions around the league, and let's talk about the Kyle Lowry sign and trade to the Miami Heat. I'll give you the floor on that one because you got your number 7 Kyle Lowry Raptors jersey on. You take the floor on that one, my friend.
Yes, sir. Possibly one of the saddest moments I've personally had as a Raptors fan. I mean, I didn't really take the time when Kawhi left as personally, considering that I knew he was leaving. I was pretty sad about DeMar. Considering that I'd say Lowry kind of hop-stepped DeMar's legacy while DeMar was gone, with the ring, beating records, so on and so forth. Lowry just holds a special place in my heart as, some guy that was there through everything, through before we were in the playoffs, the first playoff run in forever against that 7-game series against Brooklyn where we lost by 1 in the last game. Like Lowry's been there through everything, you know what I mean? And it's a damn shame that we didn't get to see him this year throughout the pandemic. We didn't get to see him in Toronto. We had to see him through Tampa. And I'm going to be heartbroken about this for a very long time. I'm happy for him that he's still going to be playing, still going to be, an important piece to at least a contending team in the East. I don't know about contending for a ring, but contending for maybe the East Finals. Because I think Miami's decently serious. I mean, when you have Jimmy Butler, you're always going to be pushing your players, and Kyle Lowry is one of those players that when he gets pushed, he plays better. You know what I mean? He's very similar in the sense too. He's like a similar version of CP3, just for me, not as good as CP3.
Right.
But yeah, the news on what the sign and trade really is with Miami still haven't come out. There's rumors that it's Precious, I forget what his last name is,
and Goran
Dragic.
Yeah.
For Lowry. It's not even confirmed. I don't know why it's taking so long to tell us what the sign and trade is. Like, what's there really to, like, why is this so complicated to explain? But good for Lowry. I'm sad it's Miami. For me personally, there's a few teams that, because when I got into basketball around like 2012, 2013, there was always a few teams that I just hate seeing people go to. Brooklyn Nets, Golden State Warriors, and Miami Heat. And, I guess it's not the Heatles of old, but it's still Miami. And I'm not as happy seeing him there, but I'm happy for him overall. I mean, you're living in sunny Miami, you know what I mean? Like, This is perfect for you. This is a different change from Toronto. So yeah, good for Lowry, I guess.
Yeah, and shout out to Pat Riley, man. He's restructured this roster from what it was in 2018 with guys like Tyler Johnson, Kelly Olynyk, just a lot of players, but they're not actually going to maybe move the needle as much. Getting Jimmy Butler, hitting on the Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero draft picks most notably, and then obviously the Lowry sign and trade. He's really turned it around, and this is a team that came off the finals appearance in the bubble, obviously, and then the next year couldn't really get stuff figured out. There's a lot of chopping and changing. The loss of Jay Crowder really hurt them. And yeah, I mean, now they're really going for it. They've committed a lot of money in Duncan Robinson as well. He signed a $90 million extension. So shout out to him, going from being undrafted to $90 million bag. That's pretty commendable. And then getting Lowry, who's, he's not in the peak of his career. Obviously, he's in the twilight of his career, but still he's definitely going to be an upgrade from what they had last year. So Milan, where would you give the Heat a ceiling at? I'd say probably the 4 seed, and if things break right, maybe the 3. But I think about the 4 seed is where I'd project them in the East next year.
I think that's fair. 3rd or 4th should be good, but in terms of the playoffs, I don't see them going any further than the conference finals. I mean, we've got to realize they did lose in the first round to the champs, right?
Yep.
It didn't even seem close. I mean, it was a sweep, but at the same time, it is the champs that they played. And you never doubt a team that has Jimmy Butler, because Jimmy Butler, for some reason, just has rent in everybody's heads, and he just is able to fight no matter what. I mean, even that series against Toronto back in 2019, Philly versus Toronto, had there
Yeah.
not been Jimmy Butler on that team, no way that goes to 7 games, no matter the talent that's on
Yeah.
Philly. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think Miami got better, but I think their ceiling is still about a conference finals at the very best. And my prediction will still be about a second round finish for them.
Second round finished. I mean, that's pretty respectable. I mean, this year, they ran into the Bucks. They got swept. The revenge series that kind of everyone was talking about. I mean, I think on paper they've obviously got better. Will those pieces like we'll have to see, right? So anymore, and I guess now we can kind of flip it to the Raptors' perspective. They drafted Scotty Barnes with the 4th overall pick. This was a couple weeks ago now, but Raptors Twitter wasn't really happy with him. Milan, what's your take on the selection and kind of where he fits in the mold going forward for the Raps?
Yeah, it's an interesting reaction because everyone and their mom was expecting Jalen Suggs to get picked, right? Everybody, and out of nowhere, out of literally thin air, all we hear is with the 4th pick in the 2021 NBA draft, the Toronto Raptors select Scott Barnes, and no one was expecting it, right? Not a single but for me as a Raptors fan, what gave me joy in seeing that was this guy standing up and celebrating being supportive, selected by the Raps.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen that in a very long time.
Yeah.
I don't see players being happy to come to Toronto. You know what I mean? It's a problem because people don't understand. It's a great city. You know what I mean? It's a great place to be. Yeah, it's a different country. It's not America, right? But it's a great place to be. It's almost like there's advantages to playing in Toronto versus playing somewhere else, right? And seeing them not want to come hurts, but then seeing Scotty Barnes really want to be there, and then after a day, I'd say Raps Twitter kind of calmed down and realized it's not like we drafted a bum. We drafted a great player. You know what I mean? It's a little complicated on who and what stays at this point. I'm hearing there's potentially going to be a trade with your team, Sacramento, for Pascal. I don't know if that'll happen. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, it's interesting. I have to see what he does in the NBA before I make a judgment yet on how he's gonna, improve the team.
Right.
But I'd like to see what other moves we're gonna make, because if had you drafted Jalen Suggs, I don't think there would be many moves we should be making. But now that we drafted Scotty, I think we've got to move some pieces around, whether it be Pascal Siakam or whoever. Right.
And, I personally love the pick. For me, I think Barnes can be, if he develops, and that's obviously a big if, but, the Raps are known for developing talent, right? And if they're one of the best talent development teams in the league, one of the best organizations at that specifically. So if they can get him a jump shot, I think he has everything else in his game to really go on and really become a star. I feel like Jalen Suggs would have been a more, pick and plug and play player, and maybe he could have contributed more immediately. But I don't think that's necessarily what the Raptors want to do right away. Like, I don't think they're in a situation at all where you look at this roster in the next couple of years saying, yeah, they can contend for a title. So I think that they can really kind of, you never want to have a down year or a throwaway year in the NBA. You always want to be competitive, especially coming 2 years now off an NBA championship. But I think, I think it'll work out, and hopefully he proves a lot of the doubters wrong. But looking at the roster, I think Siakam definitely has to be moved on, especially just considering the timeline, his contract, where the rest of the team is in their contending status. So I don't think he kind of fits that timeline for them as much. So I think Barnes will kind of go into where he's playing at. The rest of the roster, you still got Van Vliet, you still got like Anunoby, like you still got players, but you don't have that championship level guy to kind of push them over the edge, especially now with the loss of Lowry.
100%. I mean, the core is gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That championship core is done. So whatever happens at this point, it's a new beginning for the Raptors. I mean, I'd say Nick Nurse, when he came into that Raptors team, it was almost a new beginning even then. So this is just going to be a different challenge for Nick Nurse. I think he's proven me wrong as a coach. I thought he wasn't going to be much when we first picked him up. I thought it was just we want to get rid of Dwayne Casey because we're kind of had enough of the same old.
The ceiling there, yeah.
Because at the same time, it was just, he's a great coach and all, and he was coming off a coach of the year at that time, but he was also running 2 plays, ISO Lowry and ISO DeRozan, and there comes a point where that's just not going to work anymore. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Raptors this year. I hope we can potentially a second round. I don't even know if we'll make the playoffs low key. It's
Yeah,
complicated. It's all up in the air right now. It all depends on what happens in the next few weeks with these trades, I guess. But
right.
um,
Because yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
no. It all matters on like what happens today, because or today or tomorrow, whatever is. If we pick up maybe like a Buddy Healed for Pascal, that gives us a lot more scoring.
Right. Yeah, and
Play
you could play right off the like in Sacramento's case, they have their guard heavy. They got Davion Mitchell, they got Tyrese Halliburton, they got De'Aaron Fox. Buddy Hield is kind of the odd man out there, even though he's one of the best, sharpshooters in the league. In terms of salary, I don't know how that would exactly play out. Both Hield and Siakam are on pretty big contracts, and Sacramento needs a big, and probably Toronto, you'd have to say they need a bit of 3-point shooting on that team. So would you like that trade if it worked out for both parties, hypothetically?
I wouldn't mind it, but like you just said, they're both on, I wouldn't say good contracts for what they give out in like today's NBA. I feel like when they got it, they deserved it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like when Siakam got his extension, it was, what, he coming off an NBA championship, most
Yep.
improved player. You're playing well. You deserve this. And he played well for that first half of the season. Then COVID hit, and for me, it was never the same. He kept spamming the same move over and over again. Doesn't realize that there's more,
Spin move in the lane.
more in the arsenal than just spinning around in circles and hoping for the best.
Yeah.
And Buddy Hield, I mean, he was very deserving of extension when he got it, in my opinion.
Yeah,
But
we
I don't.
talked about that. We talked about that back in the studio a couple. I believe it
Yeah,
was November 2019, and I was
something like
high on
that.
the contract. I remember you were in agreement. You had to pay players to keep them in markets like Sacramento. So, and I think a lot changes, Milan. Sorry, I kind of cut you off there, but in the
Not a
NBA and
problem.
sports in general, a lot can change in a year, 2 years. And looking back on it now, I think both players were deserving, but in terms of fit and where each franchise wants to go forward, Sacramento sounds like they really want to get into that play-in tournament next year and really break that playoff drought of 15 going on 16 years. Toronto, they drafted a guy in the same position as Siakam, who's their highest earning players. So I think, maybe a bit of a clean slate could work out for both teams here if it works out.
So you would be interested in potentially pulling this trade off as
I'd
a
sure,
Sac
I'd
fan?
sure rather for Sacramento, I'd way rather them take. And I mean, like, look, if Sacramento were to trade for Ben Simmons, that'd be a better overall player. I just don't like his game. I don't like his attitude personally. I'm
And
not a
there's
fan
just,
of his at all.
I would
Obviously, he'd
almost
be a
say
better
that there
player
isn't
than
enough.
Siakam, but
Sorry to cut you off, but I would almost say that there isn't enough on Sacramento as of now to build around Ben Simmons. You know what I mean? Because there's so many downsides to Ben Simmons' game that you need to work around. And it
yeah,
sucks to say because he's elite at two parts of the game that are fantastic, passing the ball and defending all five positions. But when you don't have the exact team that you need around that guy, that it's hard to build around a guy that you need everything around. You plug a LeBron into any team, it doesn't matter who you have. You can have a
yeah.
bunch of scrubs. You could potentially have a finals appearance. But with Ben Simmons, you need like a Steph Curry, a Klay Thompson. You know what I mean? That's why he's pushing for that Warriors move, because he knows he wants to play with shooters because he knows he'll get them open.
Plus, you're trading for a guy in Simmons that if you got him on a smaller market team who hasn't done anything in the last generation, he doesn't want to be there. Like, if he doesn't want to be in Philly, why would he want to be in Sacramento? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is kind of going on a Kings heavy talk here, but I mean, yeah,
Listen,
back to the Healed Siakam deal. I think that'd be great for both parties personally. Just salaries and filler and whatever else that goes in there. It's a lot of hypotheticals, and I guess that's kind of only been rumored in the last couple of days, has it?
yeah, as of maybe today, it's been rumored, but it might have come out yesterday as well. But as I was just gonna say, like, feel free to rant about the Kings because we don't obviously talk about much things, but when I talk, for example, and I start talking about Milan, I keep going on and on and on tangents. So you have
Right.
every right to talk about your team, my brother. Go on as far as you want, but yeah, so it'd be interesting should that trade pull off. Do you think Sacramento makes the play in if they pull off a Siakam trade or no?
I think they could because I think the East is honestly, I think this might be the first year in a while that the East can be considered better than the West. So I think there's there's opportunity. I don't think San Antonio will be in the mix as they have been. I think they'll fall out. I think New Orleans, I think there's a lot of dysfunction there. Zion's obviously not happy. If he misses some games, I don't like that roster makeup as much. They lost Lonzo. Looking at the other teams, Minnesota, they're not really going to be a factor. Defense is a real issue for them. So that's 3 teams right there. And then, the Clippers, they might fall out of the mix too. If Kawhi is obviously not going to be there. If Paul George, if he gets hurt, something along the lines, not that I want that to happen. So looking at the West, that's 4 teams that are kind of shaky that, could have been in stronger positions that should be. And I'm not saying Sacramento's just going to jump right into that mix because they haven't shown anything to prove us that they can. But they're clearly putting an emphasis on defense. Davion Mitchell, that's a really good defensive pick. Rashawn Holmes, they locked him down, which was a guy that obviously Raptors fans really wanted to bring in to solve their center issues, I guess you could say. So I'm not saying they're going to be a lock, but I'd say this would definitely be the most competitive they've been in a while, considering Tyrese Haliburton. He'll be in the second year. De'Aaron Fox, I don't know if he needs to make a jump, but he's a solid proven player. He's on a big
consistently
contract.
Been making those jumps. He's consistently been getting better and better. And it's he's one of the more underrated players in this league, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I'd say, Memphis, they'll be in and around the mix. So they'll be getting better. So there's a lot of teams in there, but to say they're Sac will make it, that's no guarantee. Nothing's a guarantee, but I'd say I'd give them a better shot this year than in years past for sure.
I'd love to hear it. Do we want to add anything else on this, or we want to move on to
let's move on to some
Lakers and Nets?
Some others news. Yeah. So the Lakers Nets arms race, Milan, a lot going on here. What did you make of these signings? Because we knew when the Russell Westbrook deal finally got finalized, even when it broke before the draft, that they wouldn't have a lot of money because that's about 120 million locked up between LeBron, Davis, and Westbrook for 3 great players, but the rest of the team, you're going to be going to bottom of the barrel signings. So they bring in Dwight Howard, Wayne Ellington, Trevor Ariza, Carmelo Anthony, while losing Alex Caruso, also bringing in Kendrick Nunn and Malik Monk. That's obviously the big narrative going around social and the likes has been their age. I believe their average age is around 32 or 33 years old, depending on if they sign some of their rookies and stuff like that. But it's an old team. Let's put it simply. It's an old team. It's older. I think they definitely prioritize defense, but what do you make of it? We should have them as the number 1 seed in the West, but I can't see them beating Brooklyn or Milwaukee. Can you?
I mean, let's get one thing straight. I'm 100% sure Rob Pelinka is a time traveler that is planning on winning the 2013 NBA Finals with this team. There's no 2 ways about it, because this team, when you got Carmelo Anthony, Dwight Howard, a Defensive Player of the Year, you got LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Russell Westbrook all together, this team would dominate. This team would go 81-1. You know what I mean? But even now, all jokes aside, even now that team is all right, but a little bit washed in a few senses. I mean,
in a big sense. Just look at the ages on that roster.
Carmelo Anthony is not the signing that you would expect to. When you hear Carmelo Anthony sign with the Lakers, you're not getting what you're expecting. You know what I mean? Because Carmelo Anthony, it's hard because he's a great scorer, but then sometimes you see him on the ball, and it's almost as if he's Russell Westbrook sometimes on the ball. I see him shoot these stupid shots that he knows he won't score, and he still takes that. When I watch some Portland games in the playoffs, I just don't know what his thought process is sometimes when shooting. It's not this. I don't know what the drop off was for Melo, because he was still a great player back in New York. Obviously from OKC to Houston, something happened between there, but I don't know what it is. This Lakers team, they're still looking legit. I think they definitely got a lot better than they did this year. Adding a lot of depth. I mean, Dwight Howard I think they were missed in big time this year. Bigs were kind of the main thing that they were missing throughout their run this year, the regular season and that series against Phoenix.
Which is interesting because everybody was saying going into that Phoenix series that Phoenix would get abused on the boards by the Lakers. Obviously, Phoenix won due to the injuries to Davis and, LeBron not at full health. But it was interesting kind of considering that, they went and prioritized some big guys in free agency when that was kind of their strength going into that first round matchup. But yeah, like we should have them projected as like, would you say that I wouldn't have them as the number one seed? Honestly, I'd have them probably hovering around, maybe three, like 2, 3 seeds, just considering I don't think LeBron's going to be going out for the MVP like he was last year. Davis, they're going to probably want to manage his minutes so they can get the maximum out of him in the playoffs. I think a lot of the playmaking duties obviously going to go to Westbrook. So yeah, I don't think they're going to be playing at their full potential per se in the regular season, but yeah, like what do you make on that?
It's always hard to predict what happens in the regular season
Mhm.
because you never know what teams are going to do in that sense. And are they going to rest? Are they going to push for that one seed because they want the home court or whatever it is? But it's kind of irrelevant in my opinion what they had to do in the regular season. It's
Yeah,
the playoffs that really matters. And I think they should be the favorites to come out the West, even at their old age, because Russell Westbrook isn't a bum. Russell Westbrook was just on a horrible team and dragged them to the playoffs with Bradley Beal missing a lot of games. Even about when he was there, they played even better. That backcourt was fantastic.
yeah,
You know, LeBron, he's something we've never seen before. He just makes teams better. He's gonna elevate. I feel Kendrick Nunn, who hasn't been the same player since the bubble as well. He might elevate him to bring him to new heights. Malik Monk is another young player that a little young to be ring chasing, but who am I to judge? He's going to be an interesting piece in LeBron's puzzle. Obviously, we know about what AD is going to bring to the team. It's an interesting team, especially because Trevor Ariza and
yeah.
LeBron, I'm pretty sure they had beef back in the days. I'm pretty sure he said they did not like each other. So it's cool to see like this project, because I remember as well when LeBron tried to do this like project with all his old teammates when he had D Rose, D
Yeah.
Wade,
2018 Cavs, the
in the Cavs.
offseason makeover,
Yeah,
the
he
trade
had to
deadline
blow it
makeover.
up. Yeah, he had to blow it up by trade deadline because it just was not working out, and then just picked up like Larry Nance and I don't even know. Jordan Clarkson, I believe
Jordan
they picked up
Clarkson,
as well.
who else? Rodney Hood was on that team. George
Yep.
Hill. It was quite the cast of characters, my friend, with Kevin Love still in the mix. I mean, wow, going back to that real quick. How did the number one Raptors team in the East get swept by that cast of characters, that Cavs team? Like,
I'll tell you how. The big bad man was in our head, bro. That guy owns all the property in Toronto, Ontario. That guy, LeBron James, is a different breed.
it was quite the run, but yeah, like it's weird, man, because this Lakers team is clearly better than that Cavs team. But you're looking at this Lakers roster makeup; it's better than I'd say. It's on paper, it's better than last year what they had. But like, when was the last time a LeBron-led team was really like truly put fear into the hearts of opponents? Like 2019-20. They weren't the consensus number one team in the West that year. Also, I guess you could say maybe like the last time a LeBron team was like serious was 2016-17 that year, like coming off the title defense. What do you make on that? Kind of, I know we're kind of not going on track here, but it's just kind
No,
of
but I hear what you're saying. Like the Lakers, I felt the whole time they were getting disrespected by each opponent when they were playing in that bubble, because each
yeah.
opponent was like, "Yeah, we're gonna get this done. We're gonna get this." Like they came out the first round against the team that was in the play in Portland.
Yep.
Everyone's like, "This is gonna be the one. This is
Dropped the
gonna be the one
first
the Dame
game.
wins." Are you kidding me, bro? Like we're talking about LeBron James here. We're talking about Dwight Howard and Anthony Davis. Like that was a team. You got playoff Rajon Rondo. I'm blanking right now on that team. Like you had a good team there, and each opponent was disrespected. I remember when they came up against the Rocks, like this is gonna be the one. When they came up against Miami, people were saying this is gonna be the one. Even I potentially said that it was gonna be about 6 or 7 for the series against Denver. I thought they were going to lose in the series against. I thought Denver was going to lose, but I thought they were going to push them to 6 or 7. I
Yep.
believe they pushed them to 6 or 5, but
it was 5, but it was a close series. It was a
close series. Each game was pretty close. But yeah, I felt that they were a bit disrespected. No one, yeah, like you said, no one was scared of them, and I would definitely agree that the last time people were kind of scared of them was when they came back from 3-1, and then after that they blew that up. Kyrie was gone. You picked up a bunch of different pieces. You know, at the time, it seemed like Isaiah Thomas and Kyrie was literally like, I thought the Cavs robbed Boston at that point. I was like, bro, IT's coming off a like almost MVP year where he was every fourth quarter, this guy was dropping 15 a game. You know, they picked up more pieces. Jay Crowder, they got.
Yeah, they picked up Crowder. That was quite the trade.
I thought that was a
Back on it,
steal, and yet it was neither of them won because in the
neither
end,
team won that trade. It was
because in the end, Boston got robbed because this guy promised he's resigning, then didn't. IT
kind
you
of
know,
fell
I'm
off
still
after
looking for
that.
him. I'm still looking for him. I don't know where he went. I know
He wanted the
my
Brinks
height.
truck. It never showed up to his house.
I know he's my height and all, but I can't find him anywhere. And yeah, I don't know what happened with that trade and like why exactly it did not work out at all. But yeah, I feel the last time they were really feared was 2016-17. I think it all depends on how, I guess, the first half of the season goes for this team, how they gel, because obviously we've never seen LeBron play with the likes of Melo, Trevor Ariza. Those are both players that LeBron has a history with, and I want to see how they gel, especially the young core of Malik Monk and Kendrick Nunn. Those are players I want to see if they get better. I give them a legit shot at pushing the final series, whether it's against the Nets or whoever, to a good 6 or 7. I believe it'll be the Nets Lakers. We don't know for sure, obviously. It always seems to be. We always predict it before the season starts. We're going to say Nets Lakers, and then it doesn't. Well, I mean, I say always. Didn't happen this year. It could happen next year. For me, it depends on how those two young players develop throughout the season. Then I'll make my pick on who I think the finals, who's going to come out the finals. But as of now, I've still got the Nets taking it easy. Yeah, they don't got a bench, but when you have 3 MVP caliber players in the peak of their primes, yeah.
Couple things on that, Moen. One thing, couple things on that, the whole finals projections, and obviously we're not going to get in the finals pick right now, but you said that, you know, the finals, kind of the consensus idea of the teams that'll make that, you know, last year was Lakers, Nets, Lakers, Nets, Lakers, Nets. A couple of years ago, it was Bucks, Lakers, right? Going into the 2019-20 season when the Bucks were on a tear. Probably the year before that, people would have said Warriors, Bucks. Like none of those series happened, right? Like we never get the finals matchup. Going back to 2008, 2009, it was Lakers, Cavs. Like that was always like the hyped up series never happens. So for you to pick, and I mean, you're not wrong. I picked them too. And I can't see like it's a finals pick in July or August. How would you not have, how did you have Milwaukee coming out of the East last year? They win the title. How do you have Brooklyn? Like explain the thought process. I'm kind of rambling here.
I mean, let's be clear. If KD had half a shoe size less, there would be a different team that was in the finals, and there would be a different team lifting the Larry OB. We both know this, right? Yeah. KD was literally half a shoe size off of winning the game. So as much as the Bucks deserved it, we know even with James Harden on one leg and no Kyrie, KD nearly pulled that team to the greatest heights it could have ever reached. So that's why it's easy to pick the Nets, especially as we have here in the notes. They pick up Patty Mills, one of the best, I'd say in the last 10 to 15 years, bench players, one of the best off the bench guards. You know, if you need a bucket, you pick up Patty Mills on the team. He was clutch in those San Antonio years, in those prime San Antonio years, and he's bringing that again for the Nets, signing back Blake Griffin, who, you know, out of thin air decided he knows how to dunk again, can jump again, can hit jumpers. He's been great. So, I mean, what's there not to pick the Nets for other than potentially just a little bit of depth? There's no other reason that you should not be picking the Nets. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And the thing with the Mills signing, I love it in the sense that Kyrie Irving, like, let's just say it, he's likely going to get injured at some point. So Mills is going to have to step in, or he's going to go on a sabbatical or do something and miss games unexpectedly or unexplained. That's just who he is at this point in his career. He missed those games last year in the middle of the season. People thought he was going to straight up retire from the sport of basketball. This guy's so unpredictable. So Mills is going to definitely have to play quite a role in terms of, you know, filling in for games that Kyrie inevitably misses at this point. Blake Griffin, obviously, you know, he's clearly he's foregone money opportunities and getting maybe one last big check for the chance to win a title. Respect that. And yeah, I think Brooklyn, you know, Steve Nash in his second full year as a coach of that team, I think on paper, obviously, the Nets have to be the favorite. Like it is what it is. And this has been beaten to death, but they have to be the favorite. And then, yeah, I think the only thing that can really stop this team, like we saw last year, is injuries. And it depends obviously on other moves, but like standing here on August 5th, 2021, Nets in Vegas represents this. It's pretty much consensus. The Nets are the favorite in the East. So, yeah, like would you say you have to definitely say they got better though with these kind of these moves in free agency?
Most definitely, but it's still like, as much as you said, you think the East could be better than the West for the first time in a while.
Yeah.
I only really see two teams in the East, and that's the Bucks and the Nets. There's no one else that's serious in my opinion. Yeah, Atlanta's okay. Would they ever make a finals? Absolutely not. Yeah, Philly's all right. Will they ever make the finals? Absolutely not. There's no one else that I'm looking at in the East, and I'm like, yeah, they could challenge. You know what I mean? It's between two teams, and in the West, you've got Denver, who actually could make a finals. The Lakers, the Clippers.
They get Kawhi back.
Utah could be serious.
Whoa. You
Could
just said
be.
the Utah Jazz
could.
could be a serious team. I never
said
thought
could.
I'd see the day. I never thought
I said
I'd
could,
see
not will. I said could, not will.
the
Who else you got there? You got. Oh, actually, well, we'll talk about it later. There is one more team that's looking interesting, but I don't know how serious they are in the East.
Okay.
We'll talk about it. I think it's the next point we have down here.
Yep.
But yeah, I just think there's more teams in the West that are potential to come out to the finals than the East. So it remains to be seen. But I mean, it's almost stupid.
And we didn't
not
even
to have
speak
picked
on the
Nets.
Suns, who just made the finals, right? Like
The
that's
Suns,
another
pardon
team.
me, another team. Yeah, the Nets should be the consensus pick to come out the East, and considering that we were only half a shoe size away from seeing KD probably lift another championship. Pardon me.
Yep.
Yeah, it's easy. It's too easy not to pick them, basically.
Right. 100. Yeah. Like it's tough because I really want to see Milwaukee, make another championship run, and I have them still going back to back, but it's not going to be easy if you have that full three-headed monster of Durant, Irving, and Harden all healthy. So still a lot to be seen. But on to another team in the East, Milan, as we have in the notes here, the Chicago Bulls. Luke Longley just dropped his kind of make. Luke Longley just dropped his own documentary, and maybe that inspired the Bulls to make some moves, because they've made some real moves, getting Alex Caruso, Lonzo Ball, DeMar DeRozan, 3 guards. Where does this kind of cap out the Bulls at? I'd say maximum 5 seed, maximum around there, max. They have to, like with these moves, they have to be a playoff team, right? At least.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This is first of all, they just picked up the best shooting guard that the franchise has ever seen in DeMar DeRozan. Let's get that.
When your eyes hard enough, he's back on the Raptors. So.
He's the best shooting guard to ever play for the Chicago Bulls. DeMar DeRozan is, but it's very interesting how this team worked out. In my opinion, I don't know about you, if you'll agree with me here. I think they gave up just a little bit too much for Lonzo Ball. I think. At the same time, Lonzo Ball brings a lot to the team. He's a decent defender. He's a good creating. He's one of the better passers in the league. Yep. But, you're in your third or fourth year at this point. Like, what have you done in this league other than have your dad yell about you? So that's what you're famous for. You know what I mean? Alex Caruso.
His 3-point shot. He's got more confident than that.
He was shooting about 35 to 40. Yeah, I'll give him credit for that. But I still don't trust the scoring when it matters. You know what I mean? Like, if you're scoring on a bad team, if you're scoring on a New Orleans Pelicans team that there's no pressure on, no one's expecting you to even make the playoffs, it's hard for me to judge. But when you're on a team that people are expecting you to potentially challenge for home court in the East, then I want to see what he's going to be scoring like, right? But even so,
he doesn't even need to have a scoring load, though, I'd say, because
exactly.
a great scorer. DeRozan's a great scorer. I think it's Vucevic is another guy who's great offensively. Like, they got a lot of great offensive players. Lauri Markkanen, I don't know how much of a role he'll play, if any. I'd see him coming off the bench more or get traded. Yeah. I like the moves. I definitely really like the moves, because they were kind of floundering in kind of no man's land there for a couple of years with like draft picks that didn't work out. And like, Chicago is one of the most storied NBA franchises. Let's not forget that. Even though it's been since '98 their last championship, they got 6 of those things. All right. You walk into the United Center, you walk into the city of Chicago, you come into that city with expectations of championships. And I don't think this is a championship moves, but it'll definitely get them back being relevant. And who knows, maybe in a couple of years, things break right, make a couple more moves, they're back in that picture. But at least for right now, the Bulls definitely, you have to say, improved. Will it translate onto the court? We'll see.
I really like the Caruso pickup as well because
Yep.
I've always said that he's one of the smartest players in the NBA. He might not have the most skill, but he's in the right place at the right time 99% of the time.
Yep.
Whether it's to get
Does
the
the right
rebound,
thing.
get the putback, make the pass. He was the perfect teammate coming off the bench that isn't in great shape for LeBron. And I love to see him on any team, whether it's a young core or old core. I think Caruso's a great pickup for anyone. DeMar DeRozan, back in the East, I'm happy. Back in a red jersey, I'm happy. Not on the Raptors, I'm not happy, but it's okay. He'll take down that bald gambler's statue and he'll put his own there. He'll put his own there. He'll win another 12 rings this year.
Yeah.
Only in this year he'll win 12 rings. So yeah, that's what'll happen with the Bulls. I'm happy. The Bulls, yeah, like you said, they were kind of in like a rut of just not doing anything, and I like this, but
Ever
it was a
since the
slow
Butler
but
trade,
steady.
right? Ever since the Butler trade, they've kind of just been not really doing much.
It was a slow
Oh.
and steady pickup though. They picked up Vucevic, and then after that, it's just been upwards. So I'm happy for them. Looks like Larry Markkanen's moving on. He just unfortunately hasn't worked out since the first year. Hasn't really recovered. He showed a lot of potential, but doesn't really give much else.
The pride of Finland can't get it done, I guess.
Yeah.
It's too bad because coming into the league, I really like this game. Like people were obviously, white European player from mocking him as the next Dirk. He's not that whatsoever, but I just wanted him to succeed. I think a guy coming out of Finland is really cool and good for the league, but just the defense isn't there. Obviously, head coaching changes, ruined his confidence, injuries, just a bit inconsistency. But Markkanen is still a young player. Like I think if he can get traded to the right situation and just they can put him in the right spot, he can turn into something. But for the rest of the Bulls, I mean, I think it's just good, Milan, just have the Bulls back in kind of, just kind of relevancy again. Having Chicago as one of their main markets, their marquee markets, this is always talked about. I think it's great for the league to have them back, and the United Center should be having somewhat of some playoff basketball, which is great. Like the Bulls and the Knicks in the East, those teams are good. Like we're in a great spot for the league, I think.
Yeah, I mean, competition is what makes this league great, right? Like we were saying earlier, we always predict the finals, and the big criticism of the NBA in the last 10 years is that it's always the same teams playing in the finals over and over again. As of lately, every time we want to predict someone to come out the finals, they don't come out. So it goes to show this league is getting a lot better. All the teams are getting competitive slowly but surely. Even with super teams, all teams are slowly building competition. So yeah, I'm happy to see it. And I hope the Bulls have a great year because they've got a great young core going forward with some good experience as well.
And that's what it goes back to. Like when we talk about, the Eastern Conference and that point I made earlier of how the East is so deep, I genuinely think there's about 10 teams that are going to be in the mix. I think it's Brooklyn, it's Milwaukee, Philadelphia, Miami. Chicago's more serious this year. Charlotte, Washington now. I don't know if they'll be like a serious contender, but they'll be wanting to get back into that kind of mix. That's 7 teams just already. Couple others like Indiana, they'll probably take a step back. Raptors, who knows with them? They could take a step forward, take a step back. They should get better just based on the fact they'll be in Toronto. So, it's not a lot of championship teams, like you said, Milan, but it's a lot of, and the Knicks and the Hawks, that's 2 more teams that were in the mix last year as well. So I think, yeah, your point to it being not as top heavy in the East, I can see that because there's probably only 2 serious, maybe 3 teams. But in terms of like depth of teams that are going to be going for it, I think that's about 10 teams I just listed that are all going to be in and around the play-in game. And with that tournament being expanded to 10 to get in the playoffs, like, would you agree with that? Or, I mean, like and this is obviously summer, August 5th projections. It's hard to project probably 8 months out, but like, would you kind of agree with that or not as much?
No, for sure. I think, 3 to 10 are all almost even, I'd say, but it's that 1 to 2 that matters, right? And that 1 to 2 is just way too much, way better than the others. I feel in the West, like 1 to 6 maybe is even, and then 7 to 10, I'd say, is like on a different level.
A drop off.
But 1 to 6 is like any of those teams can make the finals in the West, which I'm glad to see. We didn't even talk about the Warriors, who unfortunately missed out on the playoffs this year. They can get even better next year. A healthy Steph Curry, potentially a healthy Klay Thompson. potentially Ben Simmons. You know what I mean? They're gonna have an interesting year. Curry coming off his best career year in my opinion.
Which is crazy to talk about, right? Like this guy was
Not even MVP.
unbelievable. He arguably had a better season than one of his MVP years, and he doesn't even get
I wholeheartedly agree with that.
anymore. I mean, I guess let's talk quickly about some other moves here. The NBA Finals. Let's talk about the finalists and the champs first. The Bucks, they bring back Bobby Portis on a 2-year deal. Also looking to bring back George Hill once he clears waivers, and they've also brought in Rodney Hood. They lose PJ Tucker and Bryn Forbes. PJ Tucker is probably their biggest loss, obviously, because he was put on Kevin Durant a lot in the playoffs. He's obviously, even at his advanced age, still a very solid defender. And, it's a definitely a loss for them. But I love the Portis deal. George Hill, bringing him back, and Rodney Hood. Let's see what happens there. I think they haven't lost anything substantially. Tucker will hurt, but bring back Portis for me was their biggest move, and they brought him back. What do you make on that?
100% agree. Bobby Portis, other than Giannis Antetokounmpo, was the best player in that game 6.
Yep.
On the Bucks, he was, that main cog in the puzzle that made that team tick. That wasn't Giannis, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
He had to show up when the likes of Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday didn't want to. And when you have players like that are willing to put the effort on, put the team on their back like that, that's the kind of team players you want on your side. The core, you want to keep it together. It's tough seeing PJ Tucker leave again. He's becoming a bit of a journeyman at this point, going through teams left and right. But
the LeBron stopper.
Yeah, LeBron stopper. And you guys a little bigger and play small forward, or a guy with braids. There's DeMar Carroll, Dre Crowder. Those guys are all LeBron stoppers as well back in their days. But no disrespect to him, like you said, but he's just not the guy he once was. And
but he helped them get across the line and win a title.
Exactly. And more power to him living in Miami. There's no player that wouldn't want to live in Miami at the end of the day, right?
Exactly.
Like, enjoy your time there.
Exactly. And so I think in terms of like roster construction, there's still going to be moves to be made. Obviously, the buyout market, there's still some free agents available. I heard a lot of people talking about maybe Victor Oladipo could have gone to the Heat or could have gone to the Bucks, but obviously he re-signed in Miami yesterday. So that's another move. They brought him back. Let's see what he can kind of turn into for the Heat. But I think Milwaukee, they're still in a great place. Obviously, I'd say they're second in projections in the East, kind of behind Brooklyn, obviously. So yeah, that's on them. So shout out Brooklyn, or shout out Milwaukee for bringing back Bobby Portis. That's a great move. And Phoenix, Milan, the big one, Chris Paul opting out of his player option, I believe it was, to bring him back on a 4-year, $120 million deal. I don't know if it's fully guaranteed, so maybe it could become a 3-year, $90 million, but still, Chris Paul at his advanced age gets one final bag. What do you make of this contract for Paul?
Well deserved. I mean, it's almost a little bit disrespectful that CP3 is earning the same bag that Kyle Lowry is, in my opinion. I love Kyle Lowry, but CP3 is a different breed. CP3 is a different player. Yeah, sometimes people say they're the same player, like they give the same to their team. All those years Kyle Lowry was doing all this for their team, all of a sudden CP3 does it once, and you guys want him to have an MVP. I don't think he was deserving of MVP per se, but I think he's a different level. I think CP3 is a top 3 point guard all time, right?
He raises ring the or floor not of every team.
Ring or not, exactly. So I like the bag. I mean, I think it's deserved, 30 mil per year. But whether he gets that 4th year remains to be seen. Whether he stays with the Suns all 3 years, that remains to be seen. I don't know if they don't have a decent run this year. I don't know if he'll really want to stay another year.
Right.
Potentially push for just one last chance at a ring.
He'll be earning $30 million at the age of 40, right? Like these contracts, like Curry, obviously he re-signed a big one too, his second $200 million deal, and he'll be earning around $59 million in the last year of that contract. Chris Paul will be earning 30 when he's age 40. So like these contracts are astronomical, but back to Chris Paul. I mean, I think from Phoenix's perspective, you have to sign his deal just based off the fact you want to show free agents and potential free agents in the future that you're serious about winning, right? You're not just going to let this guy walk after what he did for you. Obviously in sports, you're not giving out contracts based on what people have already done for you. Because if you do that, the second you do that, I think you kind of go into a bit of a decline. But I mean, very much deserving, in my opinion, on that. So any more thoughts on Phoenix and kind of where you project them next year?
Projection, I can't really give anything because I don't know what's happening in the West. I don't know what injuries is going to happen and that's not a shot on Phoenix. I think you play whoever's in front of you, right? More power to you if you win, but I just don't know what's going to happen in the West, so I'm not gonna speak on that right now. But yeah, if you'd like to move on, I'm more than happy to.
He's off the Phoenix Suns. Okay. I guess we could quickly go around some other moves here. The Atlanta Hawks, let's talk about this one quickly. They bring back John Collins and Trae Young. So they signed two of their core guys, lock down those core pieces. I really like those moves. Obviously, they were 2 games away from the finals. A lot of people have the Hawks as kind of in that, one of the 4th best teams in the Eastern Conference. I mean, in terms of projections, we've done this a lot. I'll ask you one more time. Would you agree with that? Are they a bit too young? Would you say it was a bit of a fluke?
It's hard to say. I don't think it was a fluke, but I don't think they'll make a deep run.
Mm-hmm.
I think you come up against Brooklyn or the Bucks in the second round pretty quickly, right? And I think at that point you're done, right? But I like the pickups. I mean, Trey's deserving of his money. John Collins, and for me, it's a little bit too much for a guy that's, he hasn't really done much in this league yet. He's a good talent. He's a good prospect, but he hasn't really done much yet in this league. But
you got the contract he was looking for. Excuse me. He got the contract he was looking for, right? He was asking for over 100 million. They took it off the table. I guess he was more of a prove it deal. This year, he definitely proved himself into the playoffs. And, shout out to him. More power to him. In terms of if it's going to translate into a championship, I don't know. I still think there's moves to be made there with every team, obviously. Like, you never have your championship roster set in August. But I think in terms of going forward, you have to keep these guys on the roster. So, yeah, I guess that's what I make of Atlanta. I guess we can hit on maybe one more team, and that's the New York Knicks with some coming into the summer with a lot of cap space. And they didn't blow it, but I think these are moves that they had to make, bringing back Derrick Rose, Nerlens Noel, bringing in Evan Fournier on a pretty big deal himself. And the big one yesterday, Kemba Walker to the Garden. Cardiac Kemba, Garden Kemba, the dream is fulfilled. What do you make of the Knicks?
I think they got better, but how much better? It's hard to say because Kemba isn't the player he was before Boston. D Rose is coming off a decent year, but age gets to you eventually, especially when you're not as athletic as you once were. Yeah. Evan Fournier is an okay pickup, a little overpaid, but an okay pickup. Nerlens Noel is always a good piece to have. Injuries happen at all times. As a big, it's good to have someone that's experienced in the league, played through a few different systems. He knows what to do. Obviously, they re-upped with Julius Randle. So, I mean, the Knicks, it's hard to say if they'll get to the second round or not, but they're definitely a playoff team. I'd say they're definitely a playoff team. I think they're a guaranteed 1 to 6 seed.
Yeah, I'd say they're also a prime regression candidate, seeing as their team defense against 3-pointers last year was very good, and obviously their injury record was very solid. We have to say, when they're a team that overachieved the last year, no one had any expectations for them, and I believe they got the 4th seed, obviously going out in 5 games. So, they have to obviously win 4 games just to get to the second round. I wouldn't make them a second round shoo-in or anything based off, again, we're in August here, but I'd say they're a team that's going to regress, but they're not going to fall out of the playoffs. I wouldn't say they've got a very good team, not a very good team. They've got a good team. They got a playoff team, and RJ Barrett, hopefully he takes another step. I like the Kemba acquisition. They're very guard heavy, so they're going to have to figure out those minutes for their guards, but I like what they bring to the table. So yeah, that's what I make on them. I guess maybe one more thing we could touch on here is the Thunder. They signed Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for 5 years, 172 million. Man, the
Really
future
like
of
that
Canadian
contract.
basketball gets his bag.
I love that contract. I know it's a little expensive. I know it's a little pricey, but I love it. I think that's he's a great player. He's at such a young tender age. He has so much in his game. And that's the thing for me, right? We have a point up here, which we'll talk about in a sec, about highlighted here. Is Kemba still better at basketball than Kyrie? We'll talk about that in a sec. But the reason that I always had that was because I liked Kemba's overall game better, right? I thought that he brings more than just handles, more than just scoring, right? Um, Shea brings so much to the team. So, 5-year 172, yeah, it's steep, but first of all, you don't have any stars on that team. All you have is picks. So you got to start paying these guys eventually.
Yeah.
And it's good for Shea, it's good for Canada, it's good for OKC. I think they could potentially be a very low seed in the West come next season, because the Thunder, they've always got an okay team around them. You know what I mean? They've always got a decent team that could push. They made the playoffs that one year with CP3. They could definitely do it again this year. So
Yeah.
the Thunder, I really like this team, and I'm glad for Shea, to put it lightly.
Yeah, I think like they're not going to be doing anything serious, but you got to lock down your star players. I mean, he was kind of, I believe he was in trade rumors for maybe the number one pick, but obviously that didn't work out. But hey, he's for where the Thunder are at right now, he's their franchise guy. And that contract we talk about, it's a lot of money, but it's kind of the going rate for these guys coming off their rookie deals and getting their first big paycheck. So I don't hate it at all. I think I love it, honestly. He's a very solid player, and who knows, maybe in a couple of years, if the Thunder can get these horde of draft picks turned into something special, he can be leading them into the playoffs. But we'll see. That's obviously a long ways down the line. Any more thoughts? We have a lot of basketball points here. We can't really go on all day about this, but any more NBA thoughts?
We can do like a quick run through. I'll just go through everything that we have here in the notes. Sixers picked up Andre Drummond. That's going to start a little bit of beef with, Joel Embiid, who's always had a little bit of beef with Andre Drummond. Ben Simmons obviously still on the team. They're obviously asking way too much. They're delusional for what they're asking for him. Rashawn Holmes re-ups in Sacramento on a 4-year deal, $55 million. Very good contract for, a good piece in the puzzle.
Yep.
Could potentially still move Marvin Bagley. I don't know how you feel about that.
I think I'm very much over the Marvin Bagley experience.
Oh yeah, you're done with it. Yeah, I mean that's unfortunate, because he had a lot of hype coming into the league. It wouldn't have even been in that time. It wouldn't have even been a bad pick to even put him number one with how much hype he was coming in with in that draft. But it's tough, man.
I can talk about it for days, dude.
That's basketball, yeah. The Nuggets, JaMychal Green and Jeff Green sign up with Denver. Will Barton on a 2-year, $32 million deal. Jeff Green didn't sign with Brooklyn or the Lakers. He actually picked Denver instead of ring chasing. Yep. Pretty interesting and pretty good contract. I think it's like a two-year, $10 million. So he's only getting like $5 million a year. I like that deal. The Cavs pick up Jared Allen on a 5-year, $100 million. Yep. I think that's a great deal. I would have loved to see Jared Allen on the Raptors, and we've been needing a big for a while. Finally, Aaron Baines is gone. I
believe the Raps were trying to trade for Jared Allen for quite a while, were they not?
I believe so. I believe before he even came to the Cavs, when they were still trying to get a part of that James Harden trade that happened earlier in the year. Unfortunately, it just didn't work out. Evan Mobley was drafted by the Cavs. The front court's looking good for the Cavs. Probably going to buy out Kevin Love. Kevin Love potentially probably be a Laker or a net. It's just seeming what it's going to be with a veteran's minimum contract. I just looks like what it's going to be at this point.
I'll make a quick point on that, Moen. Kevin Love on a veteran minimum or whatever he signs, which is going to be way less than the contract he's inevitably going to be bought out from. You look at that, and it's a completely different situation. You look at Kevin Love on his current contract, nobody wants to touch that with a 10-foot pole. But now if he gets bought out, everybody in the league is going to be going from it. It's the same thing with Blake Griffin, right? Like, I 100%. Think he's a wonderful acquisition for any of those title-chasing teams. If it's the Lakers, so be it. I can already see the complex sports Photoshop with him, with Westbrook, with LeBron. Like I can see all of these Photoshops already. But I think, look, in terms of value, every team in the league is going to want Kevin Love when he gets bought out by the Cavs.
Oh, 100%. And a little UCLA meet up again between Westbrook and Kevin Love wouldn't go amiss. I'll tell you that much. I'd love to see him on the Lakers. I think that team will look very, very interesting on paper. Other than that, Mike Conley, 3-year, $68 million deal, extremely overpaid for a guy that hasn't done much in the league since his prime years. Eric Pascal basically done for nothing by Golden State to the Jazz. It's a pretty good pickup for the Jazz. I mean, Eric Pascal, when he's got his chance for Golden State, he's played well. All rookie first team in 2020. He's only gonna be 25 years old in December. I think it's a good pickup. The Mavs, Tim Hardaway Jr., 4-year, $72 million deal. Obviously a pretty good deal considering, what he brings to the table. Probably their second or third best player. What if, we see Porzingis playing the way he's going to play going forward. Anderson the Menace re-signs with the Boston Celtics. Potentially that means Tristan Thompson's going to be out, going to be traded somehow. Remains to be seen for the Celtics. Celtics stayed making moves. I mean, at that point, Brad Stevens, I believe, is their GM now.
Yeah, right? He promoted himself to, I believe, GM because Danny Ainge is no longer the GM, right?
He promoted himself. That's baller. That's baller.
From one of the most highly coveted head coaches to not even being a head coach. Like, how crazy is that? Just 3 years ago, people were saying, would you rather have Giannis or Brad Stevens, right? Like, that was genuinely conversations going around the league, which is ridiculous to look back on. But hey, he's not even a head coach. So things move quickly. Any more thoughts on basketball, or we get to get over to the beautiful game?
We can move on to football, sir.
I'll let you take this one over. Manchester City going gangbusters in the market. Obviously, Jack Grealish looks to have been signed. I guess I just said I'll give it over to you. Yeah, I guess you can take this one away.
No. Fabrizio Romano has confirmed with a here we go. Jack Grealish will be signing in the next few days for Manchester City for £100 million, 140 million euros. It would equate to making it the most expensive English signing of all time. Still in the mix for Harry Kane. Skipped training for a few days now with Tottenham, so it looks likely that he's leaving. Whether it's City or not, it remains to be seen.
I think City's the only team that's in.
The only team that's in for him, and that was my issue with Grealish because first and foremost, I think there isn't a position in that Man City team that Grealish is replacing. You have Bernardo Silva. I every time I think about it, I forget you saw Phil Foden. You got Kevin De Bruyne. You have Sterling. Pardon me. You have so many players that already play this position. Why on earth do you need Jack Grealish?
You even have Gabby Jesus playing off
Gabriel Jesus
sometimes, right?
And the thing is, like, no one else was. It's not even like I'm buying him so no one else buys. No one else was planning on buying Jack Grealish this summer. Nobody.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he's a great player, but no one was saying, yeah, let's go buy Jack Grealish. You know what I mean? No one was saying we're going to pay $100 million for him. Why is Man City doing this?
It's the definition of a luxury signing. And how much does he really move the needle for them in the Champions League? Because that's all they're going for at this point. The league's a wrap. Like, the league's a wash. No one's competing with City for that, especially if they sign Harry Kane. So how much would you say Grealish moves the needle for them? I don't know. Like, it's a position not out of need. Striker is a position out of need, and obviously that's why they're in for Harry Kane. And hey, Pep Guardiola, I never want to hear this man say that we don't have money to sign players, because your club is about to spend over 240 million probably if they bring in Kane as well. Like, that's genuinely absurd. So I think, yeah, like the league, would you say the Prem's a wash this season? Because I do. I think there's no one touching City.
Before Grealish said the same, but when you mentioned Champions League, I completely remember. The reason my hands went on my head was I completely forgot that we didn't even mention Riyad Mahrez.
Yeah,
in the mix here. Riyad Mahrez is another player that's on this Man City team. That's like, what more do you need? Like, listen, I kind of understand maybe needing Harry Kane. Me personally, I get it. You know what I mean? Like, Gabriel Jesus is a good striker, not a great striker. You need a man there to lead the front lines. I think Harry Kane would be perfect, right? That's a perfect fit. there's just no need for Jack Grealish, and he really doesn't make the team better because you already have 4 players that should be ahead of him, even though he's great, even though he's fantastic. Like, how much can you really rotate? Because when you keep first of all, yes, it's great to have rotation, but when you keep rotating, you're just not going to have a set team that's going to be knowing what to do. And these crocodile tears that I see from him when Sergio Aguero leaves, and all this whining and moaning. This is why I have all this, criticism for Pep Guardiola, because it's clear that he's like, this is so fraudulent. It's such fraudulent behavior. Like, you keep whining, you don't have money, you go and spend nearly 250 million. It looks like this summer. Yep. You whine that you can't replace Sergio Aguero. You literally you're about to, with potentially the best English player to come from since the best English player since Wayne Rooney, right? Like, I just don't know what more Man City needs, and what he's going to be spending upwards of 900 million since he's joined Manchester City. If they end up, oh no, he's definitely going to be spending 900 million now that Grealish is done. If they pick up Kane, that'll be $1 billion spent since he's joined Manchester City. No Champions League. Fraudulent behavior. Fraudulent behavior. I don't care.
And like, I guess, I mean, like, it's absurd, man. Like, they're gonna win the league. That's not without a doubt. Even with Chelsea and like what Tuchel's building over there, it's two very big money spending clubs, but City can outspend genuinely just about anybody in the world, and they've shown it this summer. A talking point here: the game is gone, or has it been gone for a while now? What do you make of that?
I mean, the second a Ballon d'Or winner wins his Ballon d'Or, the first thing I think it was Kaká. He's bought by Real Madrid. So was it ever not gone?
Yep.
Don't think so. I mean, the game has always been, you're going to be big, and unless you're on a big club, you're going to be picked up by someone else. And it's just sad when you see the likes of Kaká, a Ballon d'Or winner, a Champions League winner, going for 58 million to the best club in the world at the time, and Jack Grealish coming off a 6-goal season, losing in the Euro final, not starting for England, and whether he should be starting or not, that I'm not getting into that conversation. I'm just saying the facts. He does not start for England. This team, yes, they're a dangerous mid-table side, but that's what they are, a mid-table side. He's going for double that.
Yep.
Double a Ballon d'Or winner. Is there anything in Jack Grealish's game that makes you think, yeah, he's the best midfielder in the world? No.
Well, there's factors that go into that, right? That's inflation. That's you're paying for the English passport. It's a lot of that. Plus, coming off a Euro where he was the talk of the town, even though he didn't even start every game, he came off the bench mostly. I mean, it is what it is. That's a modern game, and it's only getting worse. Like Chelsea, they're in for Romelu Lukaku for a reported around, I believe, over 100 million euros, 130, I believe. And
yes.
Obviously, Inter Milan, they're in a bit of a shambles right now with their finances. So don't be surprised if that move goes through either. But yeah, these players are just casually going for over 100 million euros. Like, these used to be mega rare events, and now we're going to see it 3 times in one window, probably, right? Like, it's genuinely ludicrous.
I remember when Gareth Bale went for, I think it was 95 million to Real Madrid, and I was like, there's not going to be a bigger deal than this for a very long time. And boy, was I wrong. Because then we had Coutinho, Dembele, Neymar, Mbappe.
Yeah.
Ronaldo pretty much went for 100 mil Juve. There's so many deals that have been since then, right? And I mean, I would almost say that that's a steal for Chelsea in the sense that what Lukaku is like, he's in the peak of his prime, and it's so sad.
Time's a charm.
That's another thing. I don't know why he's really. I guess he's pushing because he wants to prove a point. He wanted to go back to Chelsea, but I don't know why he would want to go there. It seems every time they pick him up, they don't want him in the end, right? Now officially, this guy's at his best, at his very, very best. Now you want him again, but it's so sad, honestly, and it's not even to like take the piss. Like, I feel bad for Inter fans and for Inter as a whole, because this ownership is just so ridiculous. Like, how do you, you knew this was going to happen. Why don't you just sell? Like, you knew this was going to be the situation in the end, right? Antonio Conte, he let go of the team because he said, I'm not dealing with this, right? That was the first piece of the jigsaw that fell off. You had Hakimi. You thought after Hakimi, you know what? You're not going to have to make any more sales. You'll be fine. Then you get a big sale, a big offer for Lukaku. All of a sudden, those taxes you have to pay in China to Steven Zhang. Yeah, you know what? Maybe I will sell Lukaku. And Lukaku doesn't even get it. First of all, let's not even talk about the fact that they're not getting their wages paid every month. Let's not even mention that. Lukaku's going to think, if you're going to consider a deal for me, even though I just was your best player, just won your first Scudetto in 10 years, why would I want to have to try to be here? It seems like the second you get a good offer for me, you want me gone. Why would I want to be here? Bro, people, Man City last season offered for Benacer 50 million. And we still said no because we wanted Benacer to be part of this mold, right? That's the kind of, and he saw that, he took that and he said, thank you so much, because he said, I'm wanted, I want to be here. Lukaku clearly doesn't want to be there anymore, because not only is this whole carousel of picking up a worse coach in Simone Inzaghi, not making the team better, taking offers and making the team worse and selling so many good players, taking offers. First of all, Lukaku isn't even the only striker that's potentially gone. We haven't even mentioned that potentially Arsenal could pick up Lautaro Martinez. Just so many. Like, I don't know what the hell is happening with Inter, but I don't know what he's planning. Does he care about this club at all? Like, this is a team that should be whining about their ownership. I don't want to hear from Man United fans when Ed Woodward ends up spending on Jadon Sancho and Rafael Varane in the same window, spending 400 million since Ole pulls up. You guys are whining that he didn't help you with money? Are you joking me? These guys have to sell all their best players after winning the title. They can't spend money after winning the title, making pot one in the Champions League. They can't spend money. This is ridiculous. I feel bad. I feel horrible for these guys. This is bad for football, because, you know, now that Inter's looking worse, it's going to be a cakewalk for Juve again unless we pick it up.
Exactly. No. And I love the passion that you have from the red side of Milan to the blue. Just like it's bad for the game. It's bad for the league. You want, like, Serie A was the best in years was last year, because we actually had a new contender in the fray. Juve almost dropped out of the Champions League entirely. Like, it was looking great. And, you know, now Inter is being rated. Like, you don't want to see that. You want to see the best teams keep their players, build projects, and compete into Europe. And if this is what's going on, like, if this is how it's going to be, then Serie A, I don't see them being serious on the European front for years. Like, would you agree with that?
Yeah, look, like you just mentioned, you know, being rated. Like, tell me how Lille, champions of France, has been able to rebuild better this summer than champions of Italy, a big club with Champions League titles in Inter. How is this possible? You know what I mean?
Who was playing in a European final 2 years before in the Europa League final, and was playing in the Champions League that same season? Right?
It's a damn shame. It's a damn shame, because listen, Italy's coming off a Euro 2020 win. You know, finally eyes are on Italy once again. Italy having a great year. I mean, Eurovision winners, 100-meter sprint winners, I believe high jump winners. Like, they're having a fantastic year in Italy. Club-wise, it looks like the same shit, different day. And it's hard, because I want to see competition. I want eyes on my league. And we'll talk about you know, rights on viewership a little bit later with a different point here. But it's so difficult to, and this is why, like, there came a point where I wasn't against the Super League stuff, because we can't compete, bro. We can't. Like, every time we have something good, England comes and picks them up. Like, how is this fair?
Yeah. And, like, it's just, I mean, the league has to be going back to Juve this year in terms of just, right? Like, they're not, and let's not Allegri's not in a good position either. Like, they're not.
But yet Allegri's back. You know what I mean? And that's the biggest change. That's the tipping point. And, you know, and I say this as a fan, not as, you know, don't take me seriously. Maybe I believe it's serious, but you don't have to take me seriously. I believe that there's a lot of shady business happening when Juventus has Allegri at the helm. I believe there's some calls that are very iffy. I didn't see them go their way when Pirlo was in charge. I think honestly, I think Pirlo just wasn't as charismatic enough to intimidate the referees into making those shady calls, right? Take that as you will. You can take the grain of salt. I really don't care. That's just my opinion. But yeah, it's so hard to, like, want to have this league get back. Disregard the fact that they're getting rid of green kits because it blends in with the grass rather than investing in better cameras. And Sassuolo is just supposed to be mudded and have to change their primary colors from now on. Like so many stupid things with the Serie A, and this is why like the Super League, like I'm interested. I'm interested, honestly. Like get it going, because it seems nothing. Yeah, the game's gone. Listen, Papa Perez was right. The game's gone. I don't care if he's spending millions and not being able to compete. The game is gone. We can't. We're the only team. Milan is the only team that's not in bankrupt, and yet we still can't. We're still struggling to make signings. Like we made a signing of Samori, and I think that's it. Like we signed Giroud on a 2 million deal. What else did we sign? Tonali we redeemed for like. We ended up getting like a discount of like upwards of we got 12 million off. We ended up signing for like 18 million in the end. Yeah. Only gave up, I believe it was Colombo. No, not Colombo and not Pabega. One of the youngsters, anyways. I don't know. There's just, it's so hard to like be happy about what's happening, because yes, my rivals got worse. Yes, they're losing the big bad
But
man.
you don't
They
want to
keep
see it
scaring
like
Romagnoli.
that. You don't want to see
But
it
it's
that
just
manner.
the whole league is getting worse, and it's not even like the competition is getting worse. It's just the whole league is getting worse because each star is going away. Like every team, Prem is picking up every big star. Prem and Ligue 1 are picking up every big star from our league, and it's just eventually like what's going to be left, you know?
Oh, and that's kind of, I guess we can make a talking point on this, like the chasm between Italy and France and all these other leagues. Like, do you foresee it one day just being all the rich Premier League clubs plus PSG plus maybe a Bayern plus even like teams in La Liga are in a bit of shambles financially? We'll talk about that in a second. Like, do you just see it one day just being the mega rich clubs competing for the Champions League, or are we already at that point?
Unless there's a generational talent coming through a club that's loyal, a Maldini, like, if there's like an Mbappe level player that comes through an Italian club, all of a sudden, then maybe. Other than that, there's just no money to compete.
Mm-hmm.
Like, tell me how Inter winning the league, pot one, has to sell players to keep afloat.
And for massive sums of money, too, that might not even get reinvested in the squad.
No, it won't. It won't. I will put. I'll give you $10 right now if they buy a single actual player that will match any of the players that they've sold. Right. Potentially, if Lukaku's gone, there's talks that maybe they'll get Duvan Zapata or Dusan Vlahovic. Those players aren't as good as Lukaku. They're not. Yes, Vlahovic is a great young talent, but he's not Lukaku. Lukaku is one of the best in the game right now. He's in the conversation of Lewandowski, Mbappe, Harry Kane. He's in that conversation. He's in that mold. And you can't just replace that so quickly. Yes, 130 million is a steal. And yes, it is a good amount of money, but it's a steal for Chelsea. You need a striker, and you don't have a striker. We talked about this last episode with Jelani. This is a club that just came off a Champions League title without a striker. This is literally a perfect fit for Chelsea, and good for Chelsea if they pick him up. But man, I'm so sick and tired of this, man. Like, this is just BS. Like, why should Inter have to go through this? Because people are selfish and not wanting to sell a club. Yeah,
it's just, I mean, and the underlying factors to all this, like, we don't know the full details, but we just do know that it's a bad spot to be in, and this whatever's going on behind the scenes needs to get rectified quickly, or else Serie A is just going to continue to kind of fall behind. And it's sad because this was a year that they really could have made some strides.
And the worst part about all of this is that if this 130 million deal goes through, 40 million really going to Man United, because they still haven't finished off paying that deal to Lukaku for Lukaku to United. Are you joking? Like, it's almost like, yeah, their title's good and all, they're a great team, but is it even worth it if you didn't even pay all your bills? Like, did you even get it? Like, you should almost get it. Listen, I'll go as far as to say you should get that title revoked and give it to Milan, because you didn't even pay for the players you have. You didn't pay their wages, and you didn't pay their transfer fees. Like, you can't just keep playing the credit card until, like, it's gonna expire eventually.
That's gonna come due at some point. Yeah,
you maxed out.
It's just, I mean, it's a tough spot, and I guess we're going back to the Juventus annual tournament. So, quickly, we can talk about some rights deals. First off, the Zone loses out on the Serie A rights in Canada. A tough loss. I was just getting into Serie A. I was very excited to continue watching the league. And, this summer, they've apparently lost out on Serie A rights in Canada to go to another streaming service, which Well,
Remains to be
it
seen
might
on
have
what
to
it
be to
is.
the
Yeah.
high seas, my friend. A pirate's life for me. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, yes, as always, TLN will be playing 3 games a week, but that's not enough. You know what I mean? Like, I want to see what's happening in this area. I want to see what Sassuolo is doing, right? I want to see how Sassuolo is competing now that the Derby's gone. I want to see how Salernitana just promoted from Serie B. I want to see how they compete. I want to see the beautiful kids of Venezia FC. I want to see them play. You know what I mean? But I won't have the chance because they probably won't be on TLN. I
Yep.
don't know who's going to pick up Serie A yet, but me having to pay $20 a month for the zone to watch Champions League and Prem, and then pay potentially, I would at least assume $20 a month for Serie A rights to whoever. It's BS. Like, it is what it is, but that's just the story of the Serie A since the Calciopoli scandal. It's just been mess up after mess up after mess up, and it doesn't seem that there's a light at the end of the tunnel here as a Serie A fan. And I hope eventually that there will be, but it seems I'm down bad right now, man. I'm down bad.
And just as a football fan in general, like growing the game to international markets, like Serie A, they picked up a new fan in me this year. I'm sure they picked up many other fans just based off the season. Like watching some of those matches, it was like, wow, this is actually a very good league. I'm going to be invested in this more so than I've ever been before. And to lose out on the rates, like that's brutal. I'm still going to be invested in the league, obviously, but it's going to be a lot harder to do so, right? Like with the rights for the rights loss. Another league, obviously, that's bringing rights into Canada is La Liga. They're bringing over the TSN, but speaking on La Liga quickly, they're in a potential €3 billion deal. Let's see right here. I pulled it up. La Liga strikes a deal to sell 10% stake to CVC for €2.7 billion is apparently the reported deal. A lot of people are saying this is a short-term cash injection to the league, which could have a lot of long-term downgrades, I guess. What do you make of this? Have you even heard about it that much? Like,
I heard about it, and from what I understand, this kind of just makes it, like you said, 10% of La Liga, meaning 10% of like the all teams put together in La Liga, which kind of takes away the beauty of ownership in football, that it's one owner. It's not the league governs each team, right? Which is it's good. You get 3 billion, and it gives a little bit more cap space for La Liga, because there is cap space in La Liga, believe it or not, right? It gives you a little bit more money to work with, but it's annoying because Madrid is upset with this. I'm sure Florentino Perez is not happy having to share his stake of ownership of Real Madrid with someone else that he doesn't know.
And it gives a lifeline to clubs who are brutally managed, like Barcelona, one of the worst run clubs in recent years. And it just gives them the ability to instantly register Messi, Eric Garcia, Memphis Depay, all these players they brought in who they were really struggling with, especially when you got guys like Griezmann are reported around like 900,000 euros a week, I believe.
A week.
Yeah. Like the wage bill is broken. The transfer system at Barca is broken, and now they get a bit of a lifeline and can continue operating as normally. So when we talked about it with Skylar a couple of weeks ago, I said, "Do you guys think Barca are going to be okay?" Skylar was like, "Yeah, I don't think." Remember, he was like, "Yeah, I think
big
Barca
clubs
are going to
get
be
by."
fine.
He said, "Big clubs get by."
Exactly, and we see it again.
And I mean, for me, I have La Liga as the best league in the world. I have it better than the Prem, purely based on the results that we see in Europe. I mean, it's not just the Champions League; it's the Europa League. They're dominant every single time. You got Sevilla dominant. You got Atletico Madrid dominant. You got you got teams like Granada competing in the Europa League this year. That was great. That was pretty interesting to see. Obviously, you had the Real Madrid, the Barcelonas. I'm happy La Liga is getting a little bit more money. It's just upsetting for like how the game's going in terms of this ownership, this injection of cash. I don't like that. That's why I've always preferred the way football's worked in that business sense, even though obviously it has its downsides. I've always loved the fact that there's no holds barred. If you want to invest into making the best team in the world, you'll do that, right?
Yeah. And this isn't to say that Barcelona is the only club that's had shaky financial deals over the years. Eden Hazard, obviously, the massive signing in Madrid that's not panned out. Obviously, Mbappe might go on a lot of money or Haaland or whoever they're in for next year. Real, like they're going to be spending cash. So like this will help them in the short term. And then obviously at Atleti, they brought in Joao Felix for over €100 million too. So these are big money deals, but I mean, it tends to be seen because this deal has only been struck apparently. And we'll see the long-term ramifications, I guess, in 10, 15 years. But I guess right now it's good for the league. Obviously, a lot of leagues across the world gone through financial issues. So this will be a lifeline, but we'll see. We'll see if this, like, if Barca are going to keep spending these exorbitant amounts of money. I hope they don't for their sake, but I guess all you can really see at this point is a lot to be seen still. So
Yeah, for sure.
any more thoughts on that, or are we good to just about wrap it up here?
Other than that, I mean, shout out to USA beating Mexico in the Gold Cup final. First time my life I've ever cheered for USA because Mexico fully robbed us, and just the behavior of the Mexico fans in that Canada game after Tejan Buchanan scored. I'm happy. I'm glad. Good for USA winning both
Quite
the
an
Nations
upset too.
League,
Quite an
both the
upset.
Nations League and the Gold Cup, right? They
Yeah.
won both of them. So good on them. And two big games, I believe, tomorrow. Is it
I
tomorrow?
believe it's Friday.
Yes. Canada women's Olympic soccer team has made it to the gold medal game for the first time, coming up against Sweden, another great team. Canada beating off America, something I'd love to see. Rapinoe talking, I've never lost to Canada. This is weird. Shut up, man. Shut up. Take your L. Take your L and move out of here.
Rapinoe, I mean, look, this will be a quick take on this, but Rapinoe, she's obviously quite a polarizing figure, right? To say the least, with what they're doing with the U.S. women's national team. But yeah, there's a time and place for comments like that. It's not egregious. It's not racist. It's just obnoxious. And it's just like, take your L.
I'm not canceling you. I'm just telling you, shut up and take your L. Exactly.
It's what it is. So, shout out to Canada women's. That's a great story there. And I'll be getting up to watch the final very early. I believe it's 5 a.m. Pacific, 8 Eastern. The match was actually changed because
of heat
and humidity over in Japan. So gonna definitely be going for Canada there, of course. And another note here, Milan, Brazil versus Spain. Do you want to explain that?
So Spain, obviously we talked about a couple weeks back about their stacked team for this Olympic Games. It's almost sad because the Ivory Coast was about 20 seconds away from winning the game against Spain. They were up 2-1, and Eric Bailly makes one of the worst mistakes I've seen in my entire life, missing the ball while trying to clear it. I forget what the guy's name is that for Spain, one of the strikers scored to equalize 2-2. They won 5-2 in extra time. That's the game. And then Marco Asensio comes up big against Japan for the semis, puts them through the final. Brazil, they're just consistently winning games like they always do in the Olympics. It's always this final that usually eludes them. They obviously did come through 2016. Yeah, at home, on home soil, they came through. But normally the final is what eludes them. So, and they're coming up against a fantastic team in Spain. So this is going to be a cracking game. Richarlison versus extremely stacked Spain team. Pedri playing like his 800th game this year, potentially like protect my man's. Like, I don't want this guy to have any problems on the pitch, please, because I want to see something good come this season. Because Barca, some good signings. We talked about Aguero, Depay,
Eric Garcia.
I mean, Messi's technically a new signing because he was an expired contract. He was a free agent. So yeah, hoping for the best for that game. I believe that game is going to be also on Friday, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong though. So yeah, good stuff over there. We can move on to Que Jogador now.
Yeah, definitely. Do you want to go first or?
Yeah, sure. I think it's an easy one to pick. I'm gonna pick Andre de Grasse for my Que Jogador, the 200-meter gold medal winner for Canada, 19.62, I believe, seconds for 200 meters. Unbelievable run from him. Arguably could have even won the 100-meter dash had he been in another lane against Italy. Won the bronze medal there. He stays winning. He's our Canadian Usain Bolt, and I'm so glad to be able to say that this athlete is from Canada. He's putting us on the map. Like we talked about last week, Canada is getting into this consistent top 10 of medals in the Summer Olympics, which we haven't seen ever. right? Canada always stinks at Summer Olympics, but all these athletes are still so young and still coming into their like. Listen, we had that swimming team with Penny Lesiak, Megan McNeil, or Maggie McNeil, pardon me. I forget who the other two are. Like they're all like young teens or young 20s, or old teens, young 20s. Yeah, like this is going to be a great Olympic team going forward, and I'm happy to see potentially if we can even get to a top 5 come Paris 2024. That'll be great to see. But yeah, shout out to Andre DeGrasse, very well deserving, and shout out to you, my friend, Jogador of this week.
Awesome. You put me on the spot there, my friend. I had to switch it up. I digress as well, but I'm going to go with Luka Doncic, your boy. Obviously, Slovenia lost to France in, I believe it was the semifinals. So France moves on to play the US for gold, but still puts up a triple-double, even in a game where he injured his wrist. He put Slovenia mostly on his back. I mean, he didn't do it all, but like, come on, man. Doncic, Olympics Doncic, NBA Doncic, what a player he is. And, a great showing for him, even if it comes up short in the end. But hey, Luka Doncic, Jogador, what a player he is.
You think he's going to have an Olympic gold by the end of his career?
If the team around him gets better and the U.S. continues to not bring their best to the table, I could definitely see it. And in a one-off game, anything could happen. So
yeah,
I wouldn't put money on it, but I can definitely, I wouldn't be shocked. So yeah,
I mean, yeah, they were a bucket away from playing the gold medal game, and in the gold medal game, anything can happen, right? So
right, exactly.
Yeah, shout out to Luka, man. Very upsetting that he couldn't pull it off tonight. I mean, it's not on him. He played his heart out. That's why he's my favorite player, and I'm happy to see him flourish on the international stage and in the NBA.
Just need to get him out of Dallas, but we can work on that in the future. So,
bro, we'll give you the number 7. We won't even retire it, please.
Yeah, keep it vacant for a couple of years. Let him work out his contract in Dallas, and then bring him up north.
I would love it.
Raptors bringing the international all stars back. But any more thoughts this week, or we get to wrap it up?
No, I'm just happy to keep recording on a consistent base. You know, we've been very, very consistent with the podcast. Lots to talk about, even in the off season. You know what I mean? So many changes, whether it's football signings, whether it's free agency in the NBA, the Olympics, whatever it is, TV rights. There's so much to talk about, and I'm happy to keep going with this.
No, 100%. It's been great today. Obviously, of course, you know, sports ever changing landscape, stuff's going on every day. But yeah, Milan, I guess I took it off the top, so I'll give you the floor to wrap it up.
Appreciate it. And yeah, on behalf of myself and Bowen, thank you so much for listening. This will be up fairly soon, both audio and YouTube, because we don't really have any cuts to do because we just killed it. We just went straight off the dome, killed this episode. And yeah, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you guys soon. Later.
Take it easy.